Hey everybody, welcome into a playoff edition of the Shelby County High School Football Show. We're out here at Helena High School, and we've spent a lot of time out here the last few weeks, and that's probably a good sign for the Helena Huskies and head coach Richie Busby, as they've had an incredible season here at Helena High School. But we get you geared up for week one of the postseason this Friday night, and some exciting football games taking place across the area. And we have 5 teams in the playoffs this year. That's an incredible number for Shelby County, but more impressive, 4 of those 5 teams are going to be playing at home this Friday night, and the Chelsea Hornets going to be the only team hitting the road, but they'll be heading up to Oxford, so not too far of a drive if you're a fan there of the Hornets as well. So 5 big playoff matchups taking place this Friday night. We're going to break down each of them. Our game of the week is going to be right here between Helena and ClayChalkville. We'll talk about how big of a game that is from a standpoint of 2 talented football teams, but every game that we have coming up Friday night, and we have a lot of high-seeded teams obviously playing at home, but it's not going to be an easy first-round go for any of those teams. So we'll talk about the trouble they could get in, what they need to do to pick up those wins, and what it would mean to pick up a big first-round victory. But a lot to get to, so we're going to jump straight in, talk about all the games that we have coming up this Friday night, and we're going to start with our game of the week between Helena and ClayChalkville. Well, obviously, it's been a special season for the Helena Huskies, and they're going to get their 2019 postseason started right here at home on Friday night in a big matchup against ClayChalkville, a ClayChalkville team that's not going to be any stranger to playing one of the top teams in the 6A classification. They come from one of the most difficult regions in Class 6A, a region that features 2-time defending state champion Pinson Valley, who didn't even win the region this year, an Oxford team that did win the region this year, as well as Gardendale. So you've got 4 teams there in that region, all finished inside the top 10 of the Class 6A standings. So very impressive region that ClayChalkville is coming out of. They played some difficult opponents, and they're going to get another one this Friday in the Helena Huskies. But what a special season for Helena to this point. Obviously, the way they've played, they finished the season at 9-1 regular season-wise, and they finished region play a perfect 6-0 to claim their first region championship in school history, beat Chelsea and Pelham this year. First time they've beaten Pelham in school history as well. So it's just been an all-around special and incredible season for the Helena Huskies, and this Friday night, it's going to be a tough test. And what you've seen from Helena this year, what they like to do, and we knew this coming into the year, that was going to be run the football and pound it at defenses, try to wear them down and make them pay in the second half. And it's shown they've gotten off to some slow starts, but the way that this offense has played, they've been able to pound the ball and pick up wins with the way that Marquise Johnson's running the football. Running back Luke Stamba at quarterback, both those guys able to use their legs to win games. But we've also seen Stamba's arm come in handy at times with some big 4th down conversions and other big plays as well through the air. Some receivers are stepping up. They're a little bit under the radar because they don't throw the football a ton, but these guys can beat you in several different ways. They can also run the ball. If they get it in space, they're tough to take down, and it's all because of an offensive line that's arguably one of the best in the state, in my opinion. So that offense there at Helena playing some incredible football so far this season, but they're going up against arguably their best defensive team and toughest test they faced on that side this season as well. This is a ClayChalkville team that has won 5 games in a row, and during that 5-game winning streak, they've not allowed more than 21 points at all, and they've given up 13 or less in 3 of those 5 games. So a team that's really clicking on the defensive side of the football. And if you look at the way this team's played, one of those 5 wins was against Oxford, the team that won the region in that area. So a team that can clearly beat one of the best teams in the state. They've also played games against Pinson Valley, know what to expect. Lost that one rather handily, 31-7, but then they also beat Gardendale, or lost to Gardendale by just 3 points, 38-35. So they've competed with some of the best teams in the state. We'll see how they handle this test against Halina, who's playing some incredible football and has a ton of momentum coming into this game. That's going to be the key, is how ClayChalkville can compete with this team, but both have momentum going into this matchup, both excited for the playoffs. I expect it to be an exciting game, but you look at Helena's defense. I think that's where the difference is. This is a veteran-laden defense that has flown under the radar a little bit this year because of the way they've played on the offensive side. We've seen them score a ton of points over the last several weeks. They've scored 40-plus a couple of times. They scored 60-plus. This is a team that set 2 school records for scoring points this season, 60-plus points twice in their last several games. So a team that can clearly put up points on the scoreboard, but their defense has flown a little bit under the radar because of that. They have a ton of guys back on the defensive side of the ball, guys with a lot of experience, guys that can get you in the backfield, can make tackles in space. I think that's where this team is most dangerous, and I think that's what's going to keep them in this one. You've got a ClayChalkville team that's going to be prepared to stop you on offense. Their defense, very talented. They're going to make this a lower-scoring game, but I think Halina's defense just as talented or more talented, and I think the offensive weapons that you have around you in the backfield, surrounded by such a good offensive line, I think that's what makes a difference in this matchup. It's going to be a tough out, and I wouldn't be surprised if Halina loses it. They've got to be focused and go into this matchup with an edge, just a different tenacity than they've had in the regular season, because what they've had in the regular season worked, but you're going into arguably your toughest matchup of the season, and you've got to be ready for playoff football. You've got to have that kind of mindset, and I expect them to do that. They have an incredible head coach that's done some special things here in just 2 years. They're going to be ready for this game. A lot of upperclassmen, a lot of seniors on this roster. They want this one bad, and they're going to go out and show that. I expect this to be one of the best games that we see on Friday night, and it's going to be a lot of fun with a very excited crowd here at Helena High School. I can't wait to see what happens when these two top 10 teams meet in the first round of the playoffs. Thompson, they continue to do it. Their third year in a row that they're going to the postseason, and they'll look to make it 3 years in a row, advancing to the semifinals as they kick off their postseason run this Friday night with a home matchup against Austin. And you look at what Thompson's done the last few years in the postseason. 2 years ago, they make it to the semifinals, fall to Hoover there. But then last year, not only make it back to the semifinals, get redemption against Hoover, they go on to play for the state championship. Obviously didn't go the way they wanted last year in the state championship, but this team, while it has some new players on it, they have some experience back from playoff teams, and that's going to lead to a lot more confidence. And you've also got an angry team coming off their first loss of the season with an extra week to prepare. So just looking at what we've seen from Thompson once they get to the postseason the last couple of years, it's a team that buys in, knows what it has to do to be successful, and they've beaten some really good teams to make those postseason runs, and I expect that to be the case this season. Now, on Friday night, we'll see how for real they are and how much that attitude has changed since their last game against Hewitt-Trussville, because Austin, while they're a team that Thompson should beat, it's also a team that's not going to be as easy as an out as Florence was for the Warriors last year. Thompson won that first-round game 45-14 last year. This one against Austin is going to be a little bit more difficult. But when you look at what Thompson has coming into this game, this is a Thompson team 2 weeks ago, their first loss of the season. They fall to Hewitt-Trussville in a game they probably should have won and would have won had they played their best game. But they made some mistakes, and head coach Mark Freeman's told them all year that you can get bit. Something can take you down any given week, and they finally saw it happen, and now they know what they need to do to buy in, be prepared, and get ready for this matchup going into the playoffs. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to them, because that was a team sitting at number one. They were mighty and high, felt like they were the best team in the state. They go in, lose to a Hewitt-Trussville team that struggled for the majority of the year despite the talent that they do have. They lost that game, and then in the polls, they slid from number 1 to number 4 behind Hoover. Hoover sitting at number 3, and that's a team Thompson beat earlier in the year. Doesn't make much sense from a logistical standpoint for Hoover to be one spot ahead, but it doesn't matter. Thompson's behind them. Thompson's sitting at 4th, and they still think they're probably the best team in the state. So now they've got a lot to prove. They've got a chip on their shoulder. They've got a quarterback who's been so efficient all year and threw a pick 6 that cost them that game against Hewitt-Trussville. So he's going to have a chip on his shoulder with something to prove. This is a team, they're already dangerous enough, but when they have motivation, when they have something to prove to the world, to the state of Alabama, they're going to go out and give you their best effort. Now, this is an Austin team. They're playing some good football so far this season. You look at what they've done. They come into this game, they've lost 3 of the last 5 games. And so that's where you wonder how they're going to react to that and be ready for this playoff spot. But when you look at that, there are also 3 very difficult opponents that they lost to as well, Sparkman, Bob Jones, and James Clemens. So those are 3 talented 7A teams. And this is a defensive side for Austin that's played some good football this year. They're giving up just 18.5 points per game, and on the offensive side, scoring 35.3. So it's a team that's pretty balanced. It's a team that's good on both sides of the ball. It's a team that can compete and a team that can upset Thompson on Friday night. So they're going to have to be ready for that. But Austin, on the other hand, has not played a team where they have to guard 4 different receivers that can all go for over 100 yards, two to three running backs that can all carry it for close to 100 yards as well, and a quarterback in Sawyer Smith who, like I said, he's going to be motivated with that chip on his shoulder. He's going to be ready for this game as well and can make some big-time throws. People think he's just a guy that might go out there and just dink and dunk some balls around. He can throw the deep ball with accuracy, and he can throw the slants. He can throw every pass that you need him to throw. So expect this offense to be motivated to come out a team that was scoring close to 50 points per game earlier in the season and is still scoring 40-plus points per game. It's a dangerous offensive side of the football. Now, the defensive side for Thompson, they've been a little bit more inconsistent as of late, but for the most part, they've been a pretty consistent team this season. They've given up 23 or less in 7 of their 9 games so far this year. Obviously, coming off the game where they gave up 35 to Hewitt-Trussville, and that's not what you wanted to see going into the postseason. But against this Austin team, I think that this is going to be more like the 23 or less Thompson defense that we've seen throughout the season. Now, if they do slip up, they could give up more points. But I think this Thompson defense, it was such a young defense coming into the year. They've learned some lessons along the way. I think they're going to be prepared with those young guys that are extremely talented, and I think they'll be ready for this matchup. I think the defense plays well. The offense has a chip on its shoulder. The entire team really has a chip on its shoulder after that loss to Hewitt-Trussville. I think that for Austin, that's the worst thing that could have happened. But for Thompson, the best thing that could have happened. While this game could still be close, I just think that's too much. When you've got a good, talented football team with something to prove, that becomes very dangerous, especially in the first round of the playoffs when the season really begins. And we've heard head coach Mark Freeman say that before throughout the season, that once they locked up the region championship, that the regular season is over and the actual season starts in November. So we'll see how Thompson handles that Friday night. They'll be on their home field as they welcome Austin to town in a big first-round playoff matchup. The toughest matchup of the week, that's going to come for the Chelsea Hornets as they have to travel to Oxford, number 6 team in Class 6A, and a team that we've talked about a little bit already in this show, being in the same region as Clay-Chalkville, Gardendale, Pinson Valley. They came out on top in that difficult region. So this is a very talented Oxford team. They're led by head coach Keith Etheridge, who's a 4-time state champion at Leeds. This is his first year at Oxford, and we've already seen him put together a 9-1 football team with a lot of talent, and it's been impressive to watch. If you look at the way this team has played, their only loss, like we said, to number 9 Clay-Chalkville, a team that's going to be right here taking on Halina Friday night to show how talented that Clay-Chalkville team is. But this is a team that's played some extremely good football this season. They're well coached, they're fundamentally sound, and they have talent. So it's going to be a tough first-round opponent for the Hornets as they have to hit the road. But at the same time, this is a Chelsea team that at times has shown to me that they could compete with a team like Oxford. And we saw it against a team like Halina, where they lost that game 31-28, but they competed and they fought hard, and it's because they were playing well in all facets of the game. The defense may not have played as well as they would have liked, but the offense was able to do multiple things to keep Halina's defense off balance, and that's going to be the key in this football game. While the defense, I think, is going to be what makes or breaks the game as far as keeping Chelsea in it, it's the offense that's going to have to step up if they actually want to win the game. And you look at what we've seen from Collier Blair throughout the season, a running back that can easily take it for over 100 yards. He's gone over 200 a couple times as well. So an extremely talented running back, and he's going to go out. That's going to be their game plan. You know they're going to want to run the football with him. They have a pretty talented offensive line that's gotten better and better throughout the season as well. So the game plan is going to be surrounded around him. But at the same time, this game, in my opinion, is going to revolve around what Caleb Moore is able to do at the quarterback position. A guy that's really improved from where he was early in the season. He's made some big-time plays, and he's getting better and better. And going into this matchup, I don't think he's going to be nervous. I think there may be some anxiety, some anxiousness to get the game started, being a playoff matchup. But if I look at it from that perspective, they're ready to get this game going. This is what these guys build for and work for all year. They're ready to get out there and play in a playoff matchup, and they all want to be the guy that wins the football game. When you have a competitive mentality, nerves are there sometimes, but once you get out there and start playing, those go out the window. And Caleb Moore is going to have to be a guy that steps up and makes plays in the passing game. And the offensive line is going to have to protect him as well. But the big thing, he and Michael Gibbs, they formed a special connection from quarterback to receiver throughout the season. I think that's going to have to be the case in this game as well, because you're going up against an Oxford defense that's played arguably the best defensive football so far this season. Just looking at Oxford's offense first, it's an offense that's scoring 40.1 points per game. They've scored 40-plus in 6 of 10 games this season. So you know you're going to have to score some points to keep up with a team like that. But look at what this defense is doing. It's a defense so far this year, they've given up more than 20 points just 2 times, and they've given up 14 or less in 7 of 10 games. They're averaging giving up just 13.3 points per game. So when you're a Chelsea offense that's going up against that defense, that's a defense that's going to know that you want to run the football. So to keep them off balance, they're going to have to be able to open something up a little bit more in the passing game and find some different things on the offensive side of the football. And that's where Caleb Moore comes into play. I think he's going to have a big game if Chelsea wants to win this football game. Now, on the other side of that, their defense is plenty talented enough. A lot of playmakers on that side of the ball, a lot of people don't really know about. But this is a defense, their first 4 games of the season, they gave up 17 points or less. Their last 2 games of the season, 14 or less, and arguably could have played better than that. Gave up 14 in a comeback victory against Pell City last week. The defense really played better than the 14 points it gave up. And 2 weeks ago, you look at what they were able to do against Calera, picking up their first shutout since the 2010 season. So a team that's given up in 6 of their 10 games, they've given up 17 or less points. Now, they did hit that stretch in the middle of the season where 4 games they gave up 27-plus, and that's what you have to be concerned about. Your defense can't go out and do that against an already talented Oxford offense. This defense is going to have to come ready to play, use the momentum, know that it's a team that can give up 17 or less. If they can hold Oxford around 20 to 28 points, Chelsea's going to have a chance to win this football game, and that's got to be the key and the goal going into this matchup. But if the defense can do that, Caleb Moore can step up in the passing game. Collier Blair continues to have a stellar game like he has throughout the season. Chelsea's going to have a chance to shock the state and pick up an upset victory. Either way, it's a first-round playoff game. You couldn't ask for much more to go on the road and take on one of the best teams in the state. Chelsea's going to have fun with this one. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. What a turnaround we've seen from the Briarwood Lions, and even head coach Matthew Forrester said it after their win last week and their upset against number 3 Hueytown, that if you would have asked him at the end of those first 2 games of the season whether they would be region champs or not, he would have said he didn't think that was possible. But after last Friday night, they took down number 3, Class 6A number 3, Hueytown, 7-0. That shows how well the defense is playing, but 7-0 to claim the region championship this year. They go into the playoffs now, winners of 8 in a row, and a team that claimed the region championship as the number 1 seed now. Already had home field advantage locked up going in regardless, but now the number 1 seed makes their playoff path a little bit easier, and they're going to kick it off with Marbury on Friday night, a 4 seed out of their region. At the same time, this is going to be a more difficult matchup than some might expect. This is actually a pretty talented Marbury team, all 4 of their losses to pretty good football teams. But at the end of the day, this Briarwood football team's playing some great football to take down Hueytown last week. And I know that Hueytown was without Roydell Williams, but for Briarwood to pitch the shutout, for their offense to put up 7 points even in a game that was a cold night, it was a defensive battle, both teams wanting to run the football, and Briarwood was able to make that one play that they needed to. And I think they felt pretty good that if they were able to get that touchdown in that game, play with the lead, that they would be in good shape. And that's what they were able to do against a 6A team that has a good defense, and the defense was playing the majority of its starters. It was the offensive side with Roydell Williams being the main guy that was out. So that's a good Hueytown defense, and that was a special performance from Briarwood to pick up the win. They go in now as winners of 8 in a row into this matchup against a Marbury team that's playing some pretty good football. Like I said, they're 6-4 overall this season. Those 4 losses, 2 talented football teams. But the defensive side of the football for Marbury is where I have a concern. It's a unit giving up 28.9 points per game. And while their offense is scoring 31.2. Their offense is going up against one of the best defenses in the 5A classification. Briarwood's defense not going to give up 31 points in this game. So you look at that and you look at what Marbury's defense is doing right now, giving up 28.9. I think that's where the difference comes in this matchup. If you look at similar opponents as far as good defenses go, Bibb County and Demopolis, Marbury scored just 16 and 6 points respectively. So they've shown they struggle to move the ball against really good defenses. I think it's going to be similar to that. I think with Briarwood's defense on their home field, you'll see Marbury get maybe between 10 and 20 points, but with their defense giving up 28.9 points per game, we've not only seen freshman quarterback Christopher Vizina gain some confidence at the quarterback position throughout the season. He's made some big plays in the passing game the last few weeks. And if you look back to the Ramsey game, made some really big plays in that game to help them pick up the upset. But he's also formed a special relationship with Blake McKenna, who's an extremely talented receiver. And if they throw the ball a little bit more to him, he's going to have more opportunities. But a guy with some size, a guy that has good hands and catches everything, he's a talented one. So if that connection stays together, is able to play some good football on Friday night, you've also got two running backs that are expected to be ready to go as well. And Luke Pruitt's been the guy the majority of the year, a guy that can take it over 100 any given night. And then he went down in that Ramsey game in the first half. In the second half came in Luke Rebels. And Luke Rebels, a guy that's gone over 100 the last few weeks as well, including that win against Hueytown. So now you've got two running backs. You've got a quarterback with confidence gained going into the postseason, a talented receiver you trust, and an offensive line that's arguably as good as any in the 5A classification. And that's on the offensive side of the ball. If they can put up some points with that defense, it's going to be tough, in my opinion, for Marbury to keep up. I think it's going to be close for a while, but eventually not only is the Briarwood defense going to hold them in check, I think that their offense will make a couple of plays late down the stretch to pick up a first-round win and move on to the second round. This seems to be the game that Montevallo's been waiting for all season long, a team that finished the season at 6-4 overall, but a team that's also been bugged by the injuries and inconsistency at times because of that, and a team that last year went into this exact situation and lost. This is a team that won the 2 seed last year, only lost a season ago to American Christian. Obviously struggled a little bit more this season, but that's because of injuries. But they still claim the 2 seed. They go into the first round of the playoffs with home field advantage. This is a team that really needs to pick up a big win, and they return a healthy crew. Last year they were unhealthy going into this matchup. This year they're healthy and taking on a Talladega team that they should have the advantage over. This is a Montevallo offense that they've got Jamarius Carter on one side, they've got J.J. Evans on the other, and they've got Inabanet at quarterback, Malik Inabanet there at quarterback, and Dion Gilliland at running back, who can take it to the house on every play as well. So if the offensive line steps up, that'll be key. But this offense, they've been looking forward to this matchup all season long. They want that first round again on their home field. Last year they lost it. They had J.J. Evans playing at quarterback with Inabanet. They're injured in that position. So this year they seem to be the healthiest they've been all year. They almost upset Lincoln, a top 10 ranked team last year. They had their chances, or last week, they had their chances late. Ended up losing that one in the final 14 seconds, 38-34. But a very talented Montevallo football team. And the defense has gotten better the last few weeks. I think that can be extremely key in this matchup. That arguably could be what wins them this game, in my opinion. The offense is going to make some big plays, but you're going up against a Talladega team that's 5-4, giving up 24.1 points per game. So a decent defensive team. Montevallo is still going to put up points with their talented offense, but it's a team that's only scoring 27 points per game. I think with all the talent you have on that offensive side of the ball, all the motivation they have to want to win this game and an improved defense, Montevallo should come out victors as long as they're hungry enough to pick up this victory. And I think after last year losing in this exact situation, you're going to see a team that plays lights out and tries to pick up that win and move on to the second round. That's going to do it for this week's Shelby County High School Football Show, the first playoff edition. Hope we have many more weeks to come, as we do have 4 teams playing at home this Friday night. Chances for some big upsets, especially for the Chelsea Hornets, and chances for several others on their home field to punch a ticket on to round 2 of the postseason. We'll see how it unfolds on Friday night. I'll be out at Briarwood Christian school covering that game, so we'll do our Facebook Live video from there on the Shelby County Reporter Facebook page. Graham Brooks, he'll be out here likely covering this one. We're going to have stories and photos from all the playoff games with great reporting, so hope you'll be ready for that on Friday as we also get you ready during our pregame show live from Briarwood on Friday night as well. So an exciting night, first round of the playoffs. Can't wait to see how it unfolds. Hope you all enjoy your week, and I'll see you as we get you geared up on Friday night.